Freestyler.
My guest now is a huge star of stage and screen. You might know Luke Evans from any number of blockbusters, from Disney's recent Pinocchio remake, which me and the kids loved, or as Gaston in the live-action Beauty and the Beast, or maybe from his appearance in the Fast and Furious franchise. You might have already caught him in his latest role as the cold-hearted Ebenezer Scrooge in Netflix's Scrooge: A Christmas Carol. The list goes on. Luke's first movie role came out in 2002, so one thing we definitely don't know much about is how his 90s went. He was a fellow 90s teenager. We've got a lot to talk about. Luke Evans, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the 90s. Let's go back.
Let's go back. It was so good.
Oh my God, I loved it.
It was amazing. Sort of very specifically, do you have any 90s festive memories to share?
Oh, none.
Great.
I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness first 16 years of my life. So
right.
They don't celebrate Christmases, birthdays, Easter until I left home at 16.
And how do you feel about Christmas today then? Is it quite complex sort of navigating it?
Oh, hell no.
You love it?
Dive right in. If you could see the Christmas tree I've had, it's been up for a week and a half. So that's how much I love Christmas.
Same. I'm all about it. Let's get stuck into it. It's the best. So let's talk about the 90s in minute detail. I'm going to ask you 3 questions that may possibly prompt some memories. The first one is to name your favourite object from the 90s.
The one that I remember fondly is my first mobile phone, which was a Motorola StarTAC. And I felt like Captain Kirk, because he used to flip up and I used to be like the only person with a StarTAC, and it was epic.
Oh, God, you were so ahead of the game. Now, my first mobile was really bulky, heavy, and you had to pull an aerial up. Did yours have an aerial?
Was that a Nokia?
I think it was.
Yeah, mine had an aerial too. Yeah.
I mean, what were we doing? Yeah. It's outrageous.
I mean, it was ridiculous, yeah.
They barely worked.
But I used to love it.
Oh, we just thought he was so cool.
Mine had an aerial, but I didn't like putting it up because it looked cooler when it was down. It looked more like the Star Trek,
I hear you.
Beam me up, Scotty.
This is it. So aerial down for a very crackly phone call, but you looked great. So that's the point of that.
I don't know about you, Fearne, but in the 90s I couldn't afford a phone bill, so it basically was only out and I pretended I used it most of the time. And if somebody called, I'd have to think about how much it was going to cost me before I answered it.
This is absolutely the case. I've talked about this on the show before, but my boyfriend at the time, who's still a great mate of mine, Tom, had a pager. So I would have to call someone and leave an awkward message with her.
Oh my
and
God.
She would type it up and then page him.
I remember. Yeah, I remember that. Like, I remember having to do that as well. Like, hi, full stop. Where is my underwear that I left on the side of the, and you're like, thank you, bye.
Oh, so embarrassing. God, I mean, what heady days. Luke, let's play a song. What's your first 90s track you want to play?
My first 90s track is a song by the Fugees, the beautiful voice of Lauryn Hill, Killing Me Softly. It is completely the soundtrack to this moment in my life, because I left home at 16 and I moved into a flat in Cardiff with my friend Helen, who we used to work at a finance company. I used to stamp the mail and she used to answer the phones, and she wanted to move out and so did I, and we moved into a flat together, and it was the song that was just permeated every single part of my time in Cardiff. It played everywhere for it seemed like forever, and every time I hear it, I'm that 16-year-old kid trying to remember his national insurance number so I was trying to beef out my CV that was basically 3 lines and my address.
That is so good. I love it. It's beautiful. My next 90s question, Luke, is what place reminds you of the 90s? Somewhere you frequented, a favourite spot that you hung out in?
Well, I remember Cardiff becoming this, for me, it was the first city I went to as a teenager from the little village I lived in. And Cardiff was not the Mecca that it is now, but to me, it was everything. It had shops, it had a castle. It also had people and new friends and a life that I set up there, when I moved to Cardiff at 16. And I remember just Cardiff in general, but the first place, the first club I ever went to in Cardiff when I was 16. Just keep that quiet. I've always looked older than I was, and I remember going to a club in Cardiff with my mates called Club X, and it was like the cool gay club in Cardiff, and I clearly shouldn't have been there, but I had the best time.
Oh, Club X.
Yeah.
Club X. I wish I'd been to Club X. I've been to Wales many a time because my late nan was Welsh.
It sounds really wrong. The club sounds dodgy,
It's
but
great.
it really wasn't. It was just...
I wish I'd gone. I bet it was a right laugh.
Your nan comes from Wales, did you say?
Yeah, Ruby Meredith.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couldn't get more Welsh than that.
You really couldn't. Luke, we'd love to play another song. What would you like to choose next?
It's a song called... I think it was called KLF, but it was KLF,
Yes.
That one, whatever that one is.
The KLF. Oh, my God, I just love hearing your gorgeous voice singing. I was hoping you'd give us a little tune. Let's play it now. This is the KLF for you, Luke. It was the KLF on Sounds of the 90s. You're picking some very, very strong tunes here, Luke Evans. I'm very much enjoying your song choices and your memories. We're going to now move on to your favourite event from the 90s. It could be something that you watched on TV, witnessed, or an event that you actually partook in. What might that be?
I think it would have to be seeing Bon Jovi at the Cardiff Arms Park, which is now the Principality Stadium, and Van Halen was the warm-up band.
Oh, my God.
And I don't know how, but I managed, I must have been about 14 maybe, and I managed to get right to the front of the barriers. And it was, just looking back and seeing that whole stadium completely full and just singing all those Living on a Prayer, and oh my God, it was incredible.
Living on a Prayer is still one of the greatest songs ever written, and I'm very much picturing that John was wearing some 90s cowboy boots. Please confirm that.
The boots were on, the hair was big, the wind machine was blowing, the leather trousers or the jeans. He was probably wearing denim because he was a big denim guy, wasn't he? But it was, and he was very handsome. Everybody used to go,
handsome.
Oh my God. I mean, probably still is handsome. I haven't seen him recently, but yeah.
Oh, he's still very handsome. We absolutely love the Jovi. I mean, what a gig. I've only ever seen them live in the context of when I was on Radio 1. They actually did a live lounge for us, which was absolutely wild. But to see them in a big setting with the whole crowd singing, I can't even imagine how electrifying that was.
Incredible. When the music starts and because the intros to their songs are as famous as the songs themselves. I just remember it so well, and it's one of those rites of passage as a teenager when you go to your first concert, and I don't know, you realize lots of other people like what you like, and it feels very unifying.
My first gig in the 90s was Jason Donovan.
Was it? Amazing.
It was so good.
Was it just him or was it all the...
It was just him.
Oof, wow.
Just him. Just JC. Oh, he was amazing. Look, that is such a good first gig. Did you buy cowboy boots after seeing it?
No, I could no. Didn't have any money. Poor. I just went.
Yeah, I wonder if also you could buy cowboy boots in Wales in the 90s. That might not have been a possible thing.
You would probably have had stones thrown at you if you'd worn them in the street and had a bar guy.
Oh, God. Only John was to get away with them in that decade. Yeah. Well, look, it's a great event, my God. Do you want to play another song? What do you want to pick? It's really hard to pick only three, but you've got one more choice.
It's really hard, and I'm struggling here. But if I'm really going to remember I remember the 90s because of my teenage years. Music as a teenager becomes literally like a part of your identity, doesn't it? What you listen to is what you get, what people think of you about. And I remember there being a song. So I used to have a friend called Justin who used to have a Sierra, and he used to work at a speaker factory, and he put the back of his car was just speakers, and he souped it up, and it could play really loud music. And we play No Limit, whatever that title of that song is, and we drive through the villages of South Wales, rattling their little bay window panes at full blast with the windows down during the summer. Yeah. It's too unlimited, No Limit, and it is an absolute banger.
Yeah, and I'm very much imagining that, just a boot full of speakers and this blaring out and rattling the whole of Wales.
We thought we were so cool. So cool.
Oh, you really were. Well, look, reminisce and pretend to be that Larry teenager now. This is No Limit by 2 Unlimited. Luke Evans, thank you so much for being on Sounds of the 90s.
Absolute pleasure, darling.